I'm Ron Patterson with Utah State University Extension in Carbon County. Today we will cover the third and final phase of pruning and training cucumbers to a trellis. So we'll take the camera into the high tunnel now and cover what we do when the cucumbers get to the top of the trellis. Now once the cucumbers get up to the top of my trellis, I want to get as much vine producing fruits off that as I can. So I will tie up here at the top, use some twine, and I want to tie it too tight. We don't want to pinch that stem off. But we'll tie that up there. And now at this point I will allow these secondary stems to grow down. I won't break those off at the second node. I'll allow the secondary stems to grow down. We'll let this come over, so we've got 2 or 3 of these secondary stems. I'll let this primary stem also grow down. It'll just kind of hang down. So we'll have the primary stem coming down, secondary stems. Another way, this is kind of a modified umbrella training system. Another way that you can do that is take another secondary stem and go out across this way, so that you've got tertiary stems coming down this side off from the secondary stem. So I could take this secondary stem and tie it up across there and allow the tertiary stems to come down. The point here is these secondary stems will come down and they'll send off tertiary stems, and those stems will want to break them off 2 nodes out. So these stems will come down, and like we did on these secondary stems of the going up primary stem, we broke it off after 2 nodes. The tertiary stems coming off from these secondary stems, you break them off at 2 nodes. So we'll have this type of arrangement coming off from these stems that are coming down. Now we've got lots of nodes in there producing lots of cucumbers. They're up off the ground. Everything's clean, easy to reach. If you've got a bad back, once you get them trained, it's really quite a nice way to go. This one will come down, and once it's coming down, we will just keep the secondary stems on 2 nodes out on each secondary stem of this primary stem that's coming down. So we can have the cucumber coming up, across, and down, and then we'll have 2 or 3 trailing vines coming down, and all of these vines from 4 feet up, and then all of these coming down will have coming off at each node a stem that will have 2 nodes out, and then you break that off. So what I've done here, I've got it coming up the trellis, the primary stem coming across, and then I'm going to let it droop down. I'm going to let secondary stems, 1, 2, 3 secondary stems come and droop down as well. I will keep then the tertiary stems 2 nodes out. Tie this off, just a piece of twine. You can use a zip tie, tie it square knot, granny knot, doesn't matter, although if you're a Boy Scout you probably want to use a square knot. And that's how you get that tied to the top and then come down. When you start getting these secondary stems 2 nodes out, that's when these tendrils get to really be kind of in the way. So that's why you need to break these tendrils off. They'll grab onto leaves, they'll grab onto fruit. The Armenian cucumbers are long. They can get up to almost 3 feet long, and that's just about ready to harvest that Armenian cucumber. And we'll show some of these pickling cucumbers. You want pickling cucumbers at a different size than your slicing cucumbers. So we'll show pickling cucumbers and how to harvest. Alright, you can see at this node, or at this leaf axil, that we have a male flower right there. And then we have, this is actually a female flower because it's got the miniature fruit before the flower. Here is a pickling cucumber that is ready to harvest. All you do is just grab it, break it off like that. They harvest quite easily. And that's a good size for pickling cucumbers. If you like them bigger, you can pick them bigger. If you like them smaller, you can pick them smaller. But these pickling cucumbers tend to put out lots of female flowers at each leaf node, whereas sometimes the slicing cucumbers will only put out 1 female flower at each axil, at each node there. So that's how you harvest them. Pretty easy. Alright, so we see this small female flower here. The flower actually hasn't opened yet, so this one hasn't been pollinated. Once that opens up and gets pollinated, it only takes a day or so to get to this size. Once that flower kind of starts to die off, it'll take a day or so to get to that size. So you really need to harvest these. Probably you need to be out there every other day or so to check for cucumbers before they get too big. Now this is a slicing cucumber. It's a gynoecious cucumber, which means that it doesn't have male flowers on it, just female flowers, and it's able to develop the fruit without actually being pollinated. They've developed cucumbers that can do that. Notice the difference in size. Slicing cucumber. This one didn't develop the seeds down here in the end of the fruit, but you cut that off and peel that. That's a perfectly good cucumber. Just break off the stem, just kind of twist it just a little bit as you pop it off, and that breaks off at the stem right there. And there's some good cucumbers for lunch today. You'll notice that as the top grows up, these older leaves will get old. That's kind of what happens in life. When they get to a certain stage, you can just break those off, kind of keep things cleaned up. You'll also notice here that I have a secondary stem trying to grow out again from that leaf axil, so I'll just go ahead and take that off again. And we'll take off these old leaves and kind of keep things cleaned up a little bit. That way we've got the fresh new growth. The old growth is really not doing much good. We've got that going up. Now, yield-wise, you're going to get probably less fruit per plant than if you were to allow it to sprawl out all out around your garden, but you will get more fruit per square foot because you're growing your fruit up instead of spreading it out. So you can get more cucumbers per square foot growing it this way than if you allow it to spread out. So if you've got a small garden and you want to have a fair number of cucumbers off from your plants, this is a good way to go. If it's a little too complicated or you're scared to break them off, well, you'll just have to learn to be tough, because that's how you get them trained to a trellis. Otherwise, go ahead and let them sprawl out on the ground. But it's a good way to have fun in your garden.